If you're looking for the perfect mix of charm, culture, and walkability in Philly, East Passyunk is definitely a neighborhood you're going to want to check out. Today, I'm taking you on a virtual tour of the neighborhood, and I'm going to show you why this area is one of the most sought after in South Philly. My name is Marco DiGabriele, Philly real estate agent and South Philly native, and I have helped dozens of buyers find their home in this neighborhood, and I know East Passyunk like the back of my hand. So let me show you what this neighborhood is about and what you're going to want to know if you're moving to East Passyunk. So the number one thing that you're going to want to know about East Passyunk is Passyunk Ave. Passyunk Ave is really the spine of the neighborhood. This is the commercial hub and the commercial strip that everything feeds off of. Everyone in East Passyunk wants to be as close to Passyunk Ave as possible because that's where you get all the coffee shops, you get the restaurants, you get the boutiques. That's really the heart and the pulse of the neighborhood. So personally, I love Passyunk Ave. We can walk to Passyunk Ave in about 15 minutes from where I live, and we do that all the time. There's tons of great spots to hit. You have places like Stogie Joe's, you have Barcelona, you have a bunch of different bars and restaurants all lining that strip pretty much from the base of it, where you're at Passyunk and where it connects to Broad Street, all the way up till you hit almost Washington Ave and close by to where Pat's and Geno's are. So you have this whole neighborhood that is lined with these bars, restaurants along the strip, and everyone in the neighborhood has pretty quick access to that area by walking. So Passyunk Ave is really the reason why this neighborhood is popping off right now. And I can tell you firsthand, I had a lot of buyers looking in this neighborhood in 2025, and we had bidding wars on some properties in this neighborhood just because it was still a really attractive entry price point for buyers, but they felt like they were pretty much in a neighborhood that was established and had that walkability factor that everyone's looking for. So Passyunk Ave is really the driver of all of that development. The second thing that I want to highlight in East Passyunk, and you're towards the southern end of the neighborhood and a little bit on the outskirts, but Bach Bar and the Bach building have really reinvigorated that entire area of the neighborhood and really connected it in a lot more with East Passyunk. So for those who aren't familiar, the Bach building was an old school. It was redeveloped by a company called Scout, and they turned it into all of these different commercial spaces and office spaces. There's a lot of artists in there. There's a lot of architects in there. They rent out the spaces to a ton of local businesses that have their offices and their studios in that building. And then on top of the building is a beautiful rooftop bar, and not really, they actually have a restaurant on the other side, but it is a great location. It's become kind of a destination in the neighborhood in itself, but it's also driven, I feel like, a lot of people into the neighborhood for their jobs. And then when the jobs are there, obviously people want to move closer to their jobs, and that makes the neighborhood more attractive as well. So Bach Building and Bach Bar are great additions to the neighborhood, and I think that they are also something you should be aware of and check out if you're thinking about moving to East Passyunk. So the third place that I want to highlight in Passyunk is Columbus Square Park. This is like the backyard for the whole neighborhood. It's pretty central and it's pretty walkable, especially if you're on the northern end of the neighborhood. If you're on the southern end, it might take you, 10 to 15 minutes, but still, it's really close. And it's a great green space in South Philly. I think it's one of the best in South Philly, in my opinion. You have a great dog park. You have one that's separated out for smaller dogs, one for the bigger dogs, and then you have a huge park surrounding it. You have a playground, you have fields, and you can walk around the park, and it's just a really nice place to go in the neighborhood to, kind of get out of the concrete jungle feel and go into a green space. So I love Columbus Square Park, and it's one of the highlights of the neighborhood, in my opinion. So number four, just to highlight some of the essentials in the neighborhood. So you have Acme, which is at 10th and Reed. That's kind of like the center of the neighborhood. That Acme is so central in that neighborhood that pretty much anyone can get to it. So that's a great asset that, like, no matter where you're really living over there, you're pretty much within walking distance of that grocery store. And you also have a fine wine and spirits just north of that. This is also very close to the Columbus Square Park that I just mentioned. So, like, all of those things are right there, right in the middle of the neighborhood, which is a really, really great feature. The other thing is, in East Passyunk, generally, you're no more than like I would say 4 to 5 blocks from Broad Street. So you can get over to the Broad Street line really easily, take it up into Center City, and that makes transportation a lot easier for people in this neighborhood. That is, I think, another thing that is really driving the growth in this neighborhood is just the fact that, like, it's starting to rival now, the grad hospitals and the Queen Villages. It's a little further south, so not quite as walkable into Center City, but I think people are seeing the value of the vibrant commercial strip and the convenience of having the park and the Acme and the accessibility to the Broad Street line, and they're really gravitating towards it. And then the final things that I want to highlight about the neighborhood are really like Philly icon things. It's like truly things that are ingrained in the culture of Philadelphia. So I mentioned earlier, but you do have Pat's and Geno's in the neighborhood. Personally speaking, I don't think they're the best cheesesteaks that you can get in Philly. They're very, very touristy, but it is a really cool thing to have the classic dueling cheesesteak places in the neighborhood. You have Termini's, which is on 9th Street, and that is like one of the longest running family run bakeries for over 100 years. Like, my grandparents went to Termini's. I go to Termini's and get, cannolis and things like that to bring home to my parents all the time. It's a great place, but the whole neighborhood is kind of sprinkled with a lot of great bakeries, and a lot of them are like old school, classic Italian bakeries and pastries. So I love that. And then the third thing I'll mention is the Miracle on 13th Street. This is like really cool, but all the locals basically transform 13th Street during the holidays into like a huge light display. So in December leading up to Christmas, if you are driving 13th Street, you're going to see like it's completely lit up. It's really pretty. It's a really cool thing just for the community in East Passyunk, and I love that. So personally, I love East Passyunk. I go into that neighborhood all the time, partly because I'm nearby, but even if I was living in a different area of the city, it's probably a neighborhood that I would want to visit a lot. And it's really, in the past couple years, I would say, become more and more popular. And this year, I really noticed with buyers that a lot of people were gravitating towards it and seeing the value. So if you're thinking about buying in Philly and you want to explore the neighborhood, this video is a great start, but definitely feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss it in further depth. And, if you found value in this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you next time.